Welcome to Lesson 127, Adding Mixed Numbers. Today's objective, I will be able to add mixed numbers. Right, so for example, if we were to measure these lines, and remember when we measure, we have to line the ruler up with the line on its 0 spot. So in this case, we have 1 1/2 inches. So that's halfway. And in this case, again, we line up the ruler with the 0. I have 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 12 out of 16. So that's actually 1 3/4 inches. And then I have 4 1/4 inches. I know this ruler is a little bit hard to read. My main concern is that you always remember that you have to line up that 0 edge with the end of your object. So now what if we wanted to put all of those lines together and figure out how long they were? Well, we know we would have to add, and we have to think, what do we know about adding fractions? The first thing you should think of when you talk about adding fractions is that they have to be like fractions. And if they're not, you have to make them like fractions. The next thing is, do you know how to add whole numbers together? We do know how to add whole numbers together. You've done this since you started in elementary school, so this is a step that should be fairly easy for you. And then can we add whole numbers to fractions? Can I do 3 plus 3/4? In this case, no, I'm not going to take 3 plus 3/4 and get 6/4. That is incorrect. When I have 3 plus 3/4, I end up actually just putting them together to make a mixed number. So knowing that, we're going to go over the steps for adding and adding mixed numbers. So in this case, we have 1 1/2 plus 1 3/4 plus 4 1/4. So the first thing that we have to do is find a common denominator and use that to make equivalent fractions. Now I'm going to put 2, and I'm only going to do 2 and 4. I don't have to use both 4s because since they're the same number, we don't have to put 2 of them in there. 2 and 4 can both be divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. I can't go any further, so I multiply what's inside of my L. In this case, it's 2 times 2 because we don't need to include the 1. And that gives me 4. So I know that my fractions all have to have a denominator of 4, which is nice because that tells me I don't have to change 3/4, and I also don't have to change 1/4. I only have to change 1/2, and I know I have to use multiplication to do it. And since I know I want 4 as a denominator, I have to decide, how do I go from 2 to 4? I multiply by 2, so on the top I have to multiply by 2, and I get 2. So my new problem would look like this. 1 2/4. They're equal, same thing, it's just 1/2 dressed in a different costume, plus 1 3/4. I didn't have to change it because it had 4 as a denominator, plus 4 1/4, which I also did not have to change because it already had 4 as a denominator. Your second step is to add your fractions. So now I have 2/4 plus 3/4 plus 1/4, and that's going to give me 6/4. Because this is an improper fraction, I have to change it to a mixed number. So I have to take my 6 and divide it by 4. Oops, that's backwards. So remember, when we're setting up our problem, the fraction tips over. So 4 goes on the outside and 6 goes on the inside. 4 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. So I have one whole group and 2 left over out of the 4 that I need to make a whole group. Now I have to add all of my whole numbers. In this case, you have 1, 1, 4, and this extra 1 that you made from the improper fraction. You have to make sure to include that. If you don't include that, your answer is incorrect. So now I have 1 plus 1 plus 4 plus 1. Oops. Clean that up a little bit since that looks like a 4. So now I get 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So now I take the whole number that I got, I put it with my leftover fraction, which is 2/4, but I also need to simplify, so I can divide the top and the bottom by 2, and I get 7 and 1/2 as an answer. And it's 7 1/2 inches, because that was my label from before. All right, so I have two problems here. One I will do with you, and the other one I'm going to ask you to try on your own, and then when you come back, we'll go over your answer. If you'd like to pause and try this one on your own before I go over it, that's fine. Just make sure to come back, make sure that your answer is correct, and if it's not, watch what we're doing, fix your notes, and try again. So in this case, I need to find the LCM of 5 and 3, so I put 5 and 3 in my ladder. They can only be divisible by 1. It's the only factor they have in common. So I take 5 times 3, and that gives me 15. So now 2/5 has to change to a denominator with 15, and 1/3 has to change to have a denominator of 15. Sometimes you'll find that your LCM is the two numbers multiplied together. However, I don't want you to get in the habit of doing that, because then you add the extra steps of having to simplify. And most of the time, when you're able to find the least common multiple and use it as a denominator, that takes away a lot of the simplifying steps. Sometimes you might have to simplify, but more often than not, you'll find that you already have your answer in simplest form. So in this case, I have to multiply 5 by 3 to get 15. So I have to do the same to the top, and I get 6. To go from 3 to 15, I have to multiply by 5. So I have to do the same to the top, and I get 5. So now my new problem looks like this: 3 and 6/15. Because remember, 6/15 and 2/5 are equal. They mean the same thing. They're just dressed in different costumes. Plus 2, because the whole numbers do not change, and 5/15. Now I add my fractions. 6/15 plus 5/15 is equal to 11/15. And it's really important not to mix up what fraction goes with which whole number. And you'll really see that with subtraction. If you mix up where the numbers go, you will end up with an incorrect answer. Now I add my whole numbers. Since this is not improper, I don't need to make any changes to it. So I'm going to add my whole numbers, which are 3 and 2, and that gives me 5. So my answer is 5 and 11/15. Since there's no simplification, I'm done with this problem. So now what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to try this problem on your own. When you're done, come back and we'll go over your answer. All right, so 3 and 9 have a least common multiple of what I found to be 9. They're both divisible by 3. I end up doing 3 times 3 and I get 9. So 2/3 has to change to have a denominator of 9. And we don't have to change this one, so I know 1 3/9 stays the same. My 2/3 has to change. So I know I have to multiply by 3 to get 9, so I have to multiply by 3 on the top, and I get 6. So I have 4 6/9 now, plus 1 3/9. Same problem, we just changed it so that way the numbers work well together and that the fractions can be added together. So I add 6/9 plus 3/9, and I get 9/9. Since this number we know can make a whole number, we're going to change it to a whole number, so that gives me 1 whole. So now I have to add all of my whole numbers together, so I add my 4 plus my 1 from up here, plus the 1 that I got from my fraction, and I get 6. All right, you have 2 more problems in your notes that I would like you to try on your own, and these are the problems that you are going to do on Edmodo. Make sure that you try your best, and if you are finding that your answer is not an option, you need to go back and try again. Sometimes we make a little mistake when we are making equivalent fractions, and sometimes we make a little mistake when we're actually adding our fractions together. So don't be afraid to go back and double check. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. That's supposed to happen. That's why they gave us erasers. The other problem that you have is Agatha is making her costume for Halloween. She is going as the Wicked Witch of the West. She needs 1 10/3 yards of black fabric for the top of her costume and 5 4/5 yards of black and white striped fabric for the bottom. How much total does she need to buy in order to have enough for her whole costume? So we want to know how much fabric she's going to have to buy from the store to make her costume. As always, if you have any questions, please be sure to post them on Edmodo so we can go over them in class.